Welcome to BAM, the show conquering sameness. In a world of recycled tactics, fake vulnerability, and algorithm-chasing clones, one woman has refused to follow the script. By day, she's Sarah Wees. But when mediocrity strikes, when the market demands more than beige, she becomes misfit, a rebel, a disruptor, a strategist with a glitter cannon, and a war on clout-chasing content. Join us as we journey through the land of LinkedIn. Who am I, you ask? Well, I'm Bam Man, here to battle side by side with Misfit. This is BAM, building authority through media, the show conquering sameness, one platform at a time.
To mess with this city. BAM! I'm Batman, conquering sameness one platform at a time. Bam.
In a world obsessed with perfect-looking online presences, Misfit never seemed to quite fit in. She tried the checklist, the scripts, the 10x promises, but it never felt right. And when the advice turned toxic, she turned it off. That's when the story began.
I come from traditionally a legal background. I never really felt into the typical marketing, sales type hype and advice. Yet within the legal industry, I couldn't really, when I really tried to investigate, okay, how can I make the most out of LinkedIn as a client acquisition channel, I couldn't really find any resources that I felt was quite relevant for the legal industry. So I had to take that advice from outside. But whatever playbooks they were using in terms of scarcity, urgencies, and it worked quite well for an audience outside our profession, but I kind of never felt that it was really relevant or applicable as a playbook to follow. So essentially what ended up happening is I took whatever I could from the traditional marketing world and I kind of made it my own and applied that to a more legal focused audience, leveraging the codes and the culture and the etiquette that we have in the industry.
Was there a particular moment, an epiphany moment, or was it a gradual thing where you started to realize, I don't quite fit into this lawyering thing. I feel like I'm starting to fit more into the marketing realm, especially with obviously LinkedIn being the thing that you focus on and specialize in. Was there ever like a seminal moment for that, or was it kind of a gradual progression and you just woke up one day and you're a marketer?
It was definitely more gradual.
Okay.
And this is also why I didn't follow the typical playbook, because my journey with marketing started with me posting content online as a lawyer. That was the origin story. And it all started from me wanting to help other lawyers because I'm French. I wanted to help other lawyers find a job as a French lawyer in another jurisdiction. That was the origin story. I posted, that was my first ever piece of content online. It was an article on how to get a job abroad as a French lawyer. And I thought if 10 people read it, then that would have been useful. And I mean, this article got thousands of views and like thousands of people reaching out.
But I want to point out, as a marketer and as BAM Man, I guess, you said something that not a lot of people understand about marketing. You said, if I had 10 view it, I'd be thrilled. Yeah. Now, the thousands that viewed it after, that's a bonus. But you came into marketing with the proper understanding of expectations, or at least understanding of the reality of what would happen with it. You didn't think, well, if I produce one piece of content, it's going to reach millions of people. You and might I say, having worked with lawyers for 20-something years, very humbly said, if just 10 people read this, I'm happy, and it helps somebody. So
that's right.
I think that's one of the keys to, what developed your difference from everybody else, from what I'm hearing, is a sense of your content is not about bringing people to you. Your content is about helping other people. And so you see your content as an extension of helping others versus building yourself or getting for yourself.
100%.
Do you approach almost every post that way?
To this day, that origin story never changed. And this is the exact same way I support every single client that I work with. I really try to get them into the habit of not having any expectations. Yes, you have to have a strategy. You have to think about your ideal client and who is it that you want to attract. But
yes,
it has to come from a place of helping them rather than serving yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's where the best content comes from, because it's selfless. It's you give without return, and people can feel it.
We try to live by a rule of a 3-to-1. For every one time we ask for business, we're trying to give 3 pieces of valuable. And even in those valuable, we might have a small call to action underneath my, line at the bottom, underneath my signature line at the bottom. We might say, if you'd like to book a meeting with me. But I mean like a serious, like, hey, we do this. This is how we help you. Click here to make an appointment with us. If every time we do that, I tell them we need at least 3 pieces of content that isn't just saying, hey, let me, give me your money, give me your money, give me your money. So right. I certainly understand that. So most people would say that strategy is about funnels, frameworks, or templates. But Misfit discovered here in the fire of not doing what everyone else was doing. No formulas, no playbooks, just people, just truth, just her. And once she stopped following the rules, people started paying attention.
Absolutely. I have a story about that, actually. My first 2 years of posting content on LinkedIn, I didn't know I had followers. I discovered that I had 6,000 followers 2 years in the process because I accidentally clicked on my LinkedIn profile and I saw 6,000 people there. Bearing in mind that at the time I had 10 likes per post, like there was no signal that my content would reach so many people. I had never checked impressions, never checked profile views, and it was by pure accident that I discovered the power of sharing in abundance, sharing valuable stuff. And that's kind of how I discovered what worked, because it was never about the numbers to begin with. It was always coming from a place of giving. And if 10 people find it useful, chances are that they might tell other people who might tell other people. And that's kind of how the words started to spread.
So I'd say something like follow your heart. And you can find success. Follow your greed, and you probably won't find nearly as much, I guess. Mm-hmm. How did you discover your own voice, your own way of doing things, your superpower? Like how did you know that it was LinkedIn? Because with these different platforms, obviously there can be so many changes. And that's funny because you talked about how you had LinkedIn for a while and then you didn't even know. And then all of a sudden you had 6,000 followers. I've had LinkedIn for 17 years.
Amazing.
I just got my 17-year anniversary. I think I must have been the 3rd person to sign up. I don't know. But with that, I mean, I didn't do anything with it. And about a year ago, really when I started, for me, this has been my first foray into social selling. I've always just been pick up the phone, get them on the line, tell them what we're doing, get them in a demo, show them the product, close them down, get the contract. This social selling has definitely been a different dynamic for me, but I've seen it as a way to be able to reach people that I never would have reached with that old way. So with power comes monsters. So I want to talk about, there's 2 monsters in the land of LinkedIn that you identified, and they seem to be your arch nemesis, I guess, or nemesis, whichever one it is. Superheroes don't know everything. But the first is Cloutress, and you talked about cringe content. You talked about clout chasing and oversharing or empathy. In other words, posting just to get people to like or comment. It doesn't necessarily follow your mission. It doesn't necessarily follow what you talked about in your content being value-driven content towards the end user. So with that monster, you also identified another monster in the land, which is Doutina, which is, I guess, her evil twin. And, she whispers lies like you don't have time, your content isn't good enough, nobody's paying attention anyway. All of those things tried to silence you, but they failed. Tell me a little bit about a time when you've had maybe some burnout, pressure to perform online, where you've been battling some of these things that all of us battle in creating content and in, trying to see success, but have the right desire behind it, which is success for others.
I can share a story about how there was a point where I used to be so frustrated, to this day, to be fair. You spend so much time creating valuable content, but you don't really get a lot of traction from that in terms of the vanity metrics. So when you look at comments or likes and so forth. And then you have those people who post a selfie, write a post in 5 minutes about how they used to sleep in a car and now they are a multi-millionaire. And that gets thousands of likes and comments. And you're like, you added value to no one. It's absolutely self-serving. It's very much a look at me, look at how I've achieved type content. So that kind of used to give me a lot of frustration. And even made me doubt as well to some degree. Am I doing the wrong thing? Am I pursuing the wrong path? So definitely going the way.
I think most social media platforms are built off of the premise, if you saw how great other people were living, you'd feel lesser and you'd buy more. I think that's an underlying premise of social media. I think that, because that's a basic psychological fact. If I sit in a room and I'm fed and I'm warm or cold when I need to be, and I'm clothed and I'm clean and I have a way to take care of myself, like I'm going to be much happier than, if I'm in a situation like that where I'm just overwhelmed with everything. So what happened when you started doing things differently? Or did you, from the very beginning, you just got on this path? Or would you say that there were some times that you kind of looked at it, like you mentioned, somebody with the selfie and things like that? And I'm not one that has issue with those. For one, I think, the example you gave for me is inspiring. But I understand your point. I spent 4 hours to craft this. You spent 4 minutes to post this. Yet your content gets more than my content gets. And, with all things being equal. I want to ask 2 questions. They're not on here, but you talked about, you dug down and you looked at things and you realized the impact that you were having, but then you've also referenced vanity metrics. So there must be some things that you look at in LinkedIn in particular, because this is granular on LinkedIn, this series. What are the things that you look at on LinkedIn to feel like, where you can feel like a piece of content that you've produced has been successful? If it's not the likes, if it's not the comments, if it's not all the what you call vanity metrics, what are the things that allow you to know that you've had a successful piece of content or a successful, group of content or whatever it is that you're doing well with your content?
These are great questions. I would say that I look at the combination of things. You don't just have to educate and add value in every piece of content. I share my journey all the time, for example, on how I've pivoted from being a lawyer to marketing and the challenges I have with that and how my business is evolving. And this is a piece of content, although not necessarily educational per se, it kind of achieves a different purpose that is more rapport building with the audience. So they can get to know who is behind the scenes, and they get to understand more, the values behind the way I do things. So right. They definitely have a place. What I look at in general, there's a couple of obvious metrics, which would be conversion. So spend X resources on LinkedIn. How much am I getting in terms of leads, in terms of paid work? How many of that translate into paid work? So conversion is obviously a very important one. And visibility is important as well. The problem, I guess, I have with vanity metrics when there is no context is where you can't really, you are just going viral, but you are not attracting the right audience. You are not attracting your ICP. So visibility, absolutely. If you have 10,000 eyeballs from your ICP, that's super valuable. But right. If you have, I would take that over 1 million views from random people that will never buy from you.
You literally use something I probably say in every podcast I guest on. The way that I phrase it is, here's what I tell our attorney clients. Would you rather have 50,000 views? And I kind of try to make it a little more realistic, because the 1 million hits is the outlier event. It's the 1% event. It's just that right. It's just that we're seeing so much happening so quick. You can see a 1% event 100 times a day, because we're taking the whole world and making it in one little box. That being said, here's what I say to them. I say, listen, would you rather have 50,000 views on your videos, but they're all over the world, or maybe in the United States, but they're not in your state, you're never going to serve them? Or would you rather have 50 people locally viewing your content, 10 of them call in, and 6 of them hire you? Which is of more value to you? the 50 views with 6 clients or the 50,000 views with no clients ever? And they're just like, well, obviously the first. Exactly. So you and I both know on pretty much anything. I haven't really seen it on LinkedIn because we don't see the numbers out loud like you do like on a YouTube video or things like that. But I probably get 3 to 5 a week, conservatively speaking, of people from various parts of the world saying, hey, do you want, 1 million views on your YouTube? Do you want, to me, that's, that's people who are seeking what I would call pure vanity metrics. Literally the number, which is just a number, which is just a number. So that when people see it, they're impressed maybe. And I would say that that is also a major vanity number. So again, I don't know, it might not be as applicable on LinkedIn because I've never seen it, but I see it on pretty much anything else where they can grow your Instagram, they can grow your Facebook, they can grow but there's no value. You're never going to get a client out of it.
It does happen on LinkedIn as well, by the way. So what you have is engagement pods where AI boosted likes, comments. So people do brag about giving their clients millions of views, but when you kind of dig in, it doesn't take a PhD to see that, out of 500 people that like the post, that from all parts of the world, random people who none of them are the ICP.
No, and it's the same thing. The thing about metrics is the first level of metrics, any marketer can make look good for the most part. It's when you dig to that second or third level to see what's really happening is when you know what impact that marketing's having on your business. So if you're looking at LinkedIn and you're just I'm working with this company and they're doing this, this, and this for me, and they keep telling me that I'm getting this many, this, it's well, wait a minute. Like you talked about the end metric. How many people have come in and said, hey, I've been talking to you on LinkedIn and I'd love to work with you? None? Well, then that's your real metric. So, you didn't just reject the rules, you rewrote them. You embraced imperfection, you told real stories, you made strategy messy, human, and fun again. And in doing so, you built something stronger than a brand. You built a movement. Tell me about being different and how that has impacted the building of your audience, and how are you in a granular way, and obviously not every single granular way, but how are you specifically helping these other attorneys build meaningful, lasting relationships through LinkedIn?
Awesome question as well. I've built my own path because I used to be a lawyer, but I'm not anymore. And now I'm kind of a marketer, but that's not my original background. So I'm kind of in the middle, and I don't quite fit the typical traditional legal professional, and I don't fit the typical marketer background either. And I think so. The movement that I'm trying to build really around, I think for me, it's around content and communication in general. I think the legal industry is so far behind when it comes to content marketing. It's just awfully boring and traditional, and
they write for each other instead of their client.
100%. This is exactly the problem that I'm trying to tackle. You're writing for your peers, you're writing to impress, but actually your everyday client really doesn't care about what's the latest on case law number X.
A lot of attorneys have mixed up thought leadership with authoritative positioning, and I tell attorneys, when you have a legacy where you can walk away and you want to be on stage at the American Bar Association and you can afford to be the guy who isn't ever around the office, but it's still pumping out millions of dollars a year, and you've built that from scratch, you become a thought leader. But what you're trying to do is get more of your ICP and through marketing. And so we're not trying to make you a thought leader. We're trying to use authoritative positioning to bring your ideal client to you. And when we get them to understand the difference, then it's speak plainly. In our podcasting that the Legal Podcast Network does, it's just hey, talk like you're just sitting across the table from a client, not like you're at a bar panel and, you want to explain it just as intricately as possible. So what made you decide that this was going to be your thing that you went in on? How did you come from, I'm an attorney using LinkedIn, to all right, I don't even want to be an attorney, or I don't know, is it barrister in France as well?
Jurist. So we say jurist.
Jurist.
Or avocat.
Jurist. Okay. So, you become these things, and then you start working on LinkedIn, you start building, and you start, what made you go, you know what, this lawyering is just not it, but I think the marketing could be?
Mm-hmm. I changed. I guess I was pretty bored and burnt out from my legal career, because I had worked for 10 years as an in-house lawyer, and I kind of felt that I had been there done that. Like, I built an entire legal department from scratch, hired people, put processes in place, implemented technology, like all the steps that you would kind of really have to go through in your career. And because I had done it, I really didn't feel I wanted to do this again in another company. And then when I started realizing that my content built an audience, then other opportunities started coming my way, which was going back to that thought leader piece, right? When people perceive you as authoritative on a topic, they reach out to you. And I started being invited on podcasts. I had started receiving speaking opportunities, and that's how I met a company which sells legal technology. And they saw my audience, which happens to be their ICP, and they offered me a job on the back of it. So that was the first kind of pivot away from lawyering.
So they hired you as a marketer? Commercial
director, yes. So I was client facing. There was a bit of marketing in the sense that I would be a spokesperson during conferences and things like that. But they absolutely hired me on the basis that, you know what, she has an audience, she has the attention, let's bring her in, which worked quite well. But that was kind of the first step. And that made me realize, okay, when you put yourself out there, opportunities start arising.
You said that when you put yourself out there, things happen. That is probably one of the biggest things that a lot of people just aren't willing to do, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in, like you said, a position or whatever. I've said this before, but like, I've been of the opinion since I've been a child, if you don't ask, the answer is already no. So asking there's 100% upside to asking, because you're either, number one, you're confirming what you already knew, so you have 100% assurance that it was a no, or they say yes, or it works, So either worst case scenario, it doesn't land as well as you hope, but best case, it's pure upside. So that progression, listening to your progression, it's funny, I'm a non-traditional marketer too. I went to an unaccredited Bible Institute in the Ohio, West Virginia Valley for 2 years. And then I fell into marketing because I had a job while I was going to school. And then I moved up really quick in this company and went into like script writing, and then became a manager and blah, blah, blah. And so that got me into marketing because we were selling marketing, and I liked it and I liked the money. And I started just progressing in my career from 19 years old, so I'm 47, about to be 48 this month. So you're looking at 29 years of selling advertising in some space, moving into the legal space in about 2003. So Misfit, everybody has a mindset. For you, it's not about being fearless. It's about showing up, even when doubt kicks in. You don't pretend that you have it all figured out. You build while you move. That's your power. Can you tell me about creating content even when you have that kind of like, I don't feel like it? Or you create it and you're just, you don't have that like, oh, this is gonna kill it. What do you do in those moments, or what do you suggest your clients do?
Absolutely suggest them to have a bias towards execution and to never assume. Because there's been pieces of content that I did that I didn't think much of. It only took me 10 minutes and it's really taken off and it resonated. And they were those where I spent hours and I thought, this is so valuable and this is going to be amazing.
I think everybody who works with content in some form knows that feeling. Like you're like, get this posted. We're about to hire. We're about to double. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then all of a sudden you're like, you put it out there and it's like 2 likes and 1 kind of like, thanks comment. And you're like, what? And then you're like, well, we got to get something. Let's just, and then you're like, well, we got to put something up there. Let's just, here we go. Here's a good post. Boom. You throw it together in 45 seconds, you put it out there, and all of a sudden, bing, 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 bing. Yeah, I think that. Oh, definitely. And, and your comments are all blowing up, and you're just like, what gives? But I think that's, if you worked in a factory, you couldn't half fix a machine and expect it to work 10 times better than if you took the same machine and fixed it end to end. But yet in our industry, we can take something that we consider to be half-baked and put it out there and have great response Or, like you said, we can spend so much time on something and put it out there and then just listen to crickets chirp and little tears come down the side of our face. So what's it like being you on the hard days? Tell me what happens when, we all get just here and there, even me. I had it a little bit this weekend. It was tough. That imposter syndrome where you're thinking like, why am I here? Like, why are these people listening to me? Like, who am I? Or show up when that burnout creeps in where you're just like, God, I've talked about everything. I've been doing this LinkedIn thing for how many years now? And now I got to find another post to offer value, So like, what do you do, Misfit, on those days when you're not feeling like a superhero? You're just feeling like, I don't know, a hero sandwich. And if you don't know what that is, that's like a sub sandwich in the U.S. We call them heroes too. Well, I was saying that didn't land very well, so that might be a cultural thing.
Definitely. Well, maybe you could have said baguettes because that would be our sandwich equivalent.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to me all the time. Whether it's the post, whether it's my content, or I don't think it's good, or as you said, some days you just don't feel inspired, and that's okay. I just know that it's a process, and when I don't feel like it, I don't do it. I have what I call those days off, where I've had enough 5 days off, which means I do absolutely nothing, and I just go out, I book a holiday, whatever it is that I can do. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and appreciate what you've done so far, the things you've accomplished, and just take a hard break in order to go back again.
I agree with that. I live in a place where I could just like go walk on the beach, that sort of fun stuff. And so there's times where I'll be in meeting after meeting and, hour after hour, or maybe we're doing creative stuff. And I love accessing that part of my brain, but I'm not a pure creative. I can do it and do well at it for a little bit. And then just kind of like my brain just goes to something else. But just stepping away obviously is huge. Another thing that I do, like you said, is just shut yourself off from it. Take a holiday, take a vacation, take a few minutes, whatever it is. So if you're not trying to go viral, you're not trying to impress the algorithm, you're just trying to say what matters and help people find their voice and standing out in marketing where it belongs, which is front and center. We want our marketing to resonate, but we don't want it to feel familiar. Well, maybe familiar is the wrong word. We don't want it to feel like it's everything else, conquering sameness, right? That's what we're here to do. We're trying to help people learn how to differentiate themselves in these different platforms, right now LinkedIn, so that they can stand out in a way that cultivates more clients. What do you want other creatives, strategists, or business owners to know about finding their own voice? What would you say to someone who's still kind of afraid to stand out a little bit and really, really post? And really, maybe post isn't the word I'm looking for, but really create content that resonates and helps their potential client and cultivate that sort of marketing approach.
My number one advice would be to go for that 80-20 rule, where across your client base, there will be, chances are that there is a top 20% that you absolutely enjoy working with. They are your hero clients, they pay well, they refer you work, they are super grateful about the deliverables. And I want to think of marketing not really as something that you have to do for business, even though, yes, that's obviously the purpose, but really to use it as a way to copy and paste the same ideal clients again and again and again.
I like that. I mean, I've heard, and I just want to say this for those who are listening or watching on the episode on YouTube, I've heard people say something similar to that, but not the exact way that you just said it. And it seems like a slightly different approach. Can you say, I'm asking you to repeat yourself, and like sometimes when people ask me to do that, I can't do that, but can you repeat that statement again?
Of course. So forget about marketing as a vehicle to drive business forward. Think about it as an engine to duplicate the top 20% of your client base that you absolutely would love to have more of in your business.
So essentially, you're just creating a marketing plan that resonates with your best clients, and then taking that and going and saying, okay, if this is you, we want you. Which a lot of marketers say that, but not in such a simple way. Like even me, I'm like, geez, why aren't we looking at our 25 best clients right now and looking at where they are, looking at what areas of law they practice, looking at, size of, we know the size of their firm because we only market the same size, but looking as much as we can and then identifying that and creating audiences like that. I love that. I mean, using your own client base to create your ICP. I think some people look at ICP like a wish list. Well, my ICP is Elon Musk and, Bill Gates and Richard Branson. That's my ICP. Okay, there's 10 people like that in the world. No, you're not building this stream list. You're building a realistic profile of the person that you want to spend more time. I like that. Thank you very much. The monsters are still out there. Cloutress scrolls on. Daltina rewrites her script. But today, a misfit stood tall. A voice sharpened. A story set free. And I'll be here, forging clarity in the shadows. I'm Bam Man. And this is BAM! Building Authority Through Media. The show conquering sameness, one platform at a time.
Bam!